do objective 1, presentation and install add-ons. If you want, you can always navigate to the table of contents or navigate to the outline mode to get to the different areas that we're talking about today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go to objective 1, and you will see that we have a presentation to go over. I'm going to go ahead and do that. For those that are live stream and joining, or those that are going to watch this video at a later time, we will be using some add-ons today. And if you want, you can go ahead and install those add-ons. It's highlighted in red. It will also be in the presentation portion as well. But you can just go to the 4 links that are provided in the red font, or highlight, I should say, and just follow the install prompts if you want to prepare as we go through. Again, this is all optional. This is just if you want to, but again, quick and easy access to install these additional add-ons. And I'll explain add-ons here in a minute. But with that, you could go ahead and do so. With that, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the objective 1, and I'm going to go to the Google Forms page and navigate to the slide deck that we went over in the beginning Google Forms training. However, we're just going to kind of pass through the beginning of the Google Forms training portion of that slide deck because we've already went over, but there is additional things that I want to go over on this slide deck. So with that, let me give it a minute to pull up. But I am on the Google Help website on the Google Forms. No worries to actually navigate there. You can just stay on the document if you choose to. But with this slide deck does talk about the 3 portions of the Google form. If you do not know what I'm talking about when I say 3 portions of Google Forms, I would strongly encourage you to check out the beginning training as we talk about more about that at the beginning training. With that, we're not going to go over some of these other options here. We're going to actually navigate to slide 9 and talk about the wow effect. I made that up, totally made that up, but we're going to stick with it. Forms plus sheets equals wow, the wow effect. What does that mean? Well, when you do Google Forms plus Google Sheets, you get the wow effect. And that gives you a lot of ways to use such things as, we'll talk to the next effect. When you use sheets, forms, plus more equals the wow, wow, wow effect. I don't know. I couldn't think of any other way to describe it. So what does that really mean? Forms plus sheets plus using these options can really make it a very powerful tool, such as Form Ranger, Form Mule, Autocrat, formulas, app scripts, copy down. These are just to name a few. You can actually do a lot of workflows. You can do email confirmations. You can do all sorts of things. So that's why it's the wow effect, right? We can do a lot, and you don't have to be like this coder. So we're going to dive into this and show you these tools that can really bring a lot of enhancements to your Google Forms. And to also realize this doesn't only work with Google Forms. The thing is these add-ons, Form Mule, Form Ranger, Autocrat, Copy Down, formulas actually incorporate in the app Sheets, right? So it's really Sheets is the engine, if you want to, per se, call it that way. It's where you can do a lot with that. So you're like, I still don't know what you're talking about. We're going to get there, I promise. So what does these tools do besides give you the wow, wow, wow effect is that, let's talk about one of the most popular ones, Autocrat. Autocrat is an add-on that you can install inside your Google spreadsheet. It actually is an add-on that ties to your spreadsheet portion of the form. So I really need you to think big picture. These add-ons can be used with forms as a tool, but it really is actually incorporated in Sheets. Okay, so you might have a spreadsheet where you might want to do a mail merge and convert it to a PDF or a Google Doc. That really is what it is. Okay, we just train it inside forms because a lot of people will complete a form and want an email confirmation with an attached invoice, right? That's usually an option. But maybe you just have a spreadsheet and you just want that to be a particular mail merge data in a spreadsheet portion, okay, or from the spreadsheet. So Autocrat is an easily mail merge data from a spreadsheet into either a Google Doc or a PDF. Okay, that's what Autocrat is. The other thing is we have an option is Form Mule. Form Mule, I didn't make up these names, okay? Form Mule turns on a form response or in a spreadsheet data. There's a word or in there. There's a big or, could be form responses or a spreadsheet data into an automated personal email, also like a mail merge, right? So into an email. Nice feature, right? Nice. The next one that we're going to discuss is copy down. A copy down in reality is a formula that is an array formula. That means it will, when you do a form response, as we practice in the beginning training, it always goes down to the next line. So if you had row 1, the next submission would be row 2, next submission, row 3, etc., right? It goes in that order. Sometimes in a more advanced forms or spreadsheets, once you add a new row, the formula needs to continue down. Copy down does that for you. It's an array formula. So just be aware of that. And again, we'll be using all these features here in a minute. So when you're using, when you're using these add-ons, one, add-ons are approved in the sense of security, in the sense of Google. They're already part of they're not part of the Google Workspace environment. They're a third-party tool, don't get me wrong, but Google's already taken the time to make sure they have approved the standards for them to be part of the workspace, right? So it's a little different than the word extensions. Extensions have to be approved by our ISO and be approved by that. Two different things. Add-ons are totally different than extensions, okay? So first of all, if you can install it, you're good to go, okay? So with that, when you're using these add-ons, there is something you need to think about. What account do you want this to be sent from, okay? What account do you want the owner of the documents to be sent or be tied to? Why is that important? Because when using these third-party tools or these add-ons, it really matters what account you're using. So if you're creating the form and you really want it to be some other account, like a resource account, you have to do it under that account. Okay, you cannot do it under your own account if you want it to be from a different account to be sending it. Okay, it's very important. Also, the owner of the form or the spreadsheet is also important because it's where the trigger. Really, these add-ons are scripts. They're scripts. Don't expect you to know how to build a script. You don't have to know how to build a script to use these tools, but there is some terminology. It's important, again, if you are the owner of the form, you are also the trigger owner to let you know when you want to run these scripts. And you can see sending emails by that person is very important. So be very, very cautious when starting this. And you want to use this for like sending out an email notification. What account do you want this to come from? If it's not yours, you're going to need to build this add-on, this form has to be a different owner than yourself, okay? But if you don't care if it's from you, then this will be just fine, okay? So this slide is important. Might not make a lot of sense to you in a minute or right now, but it will, okay? So it's there for you to go back to. Ownership, ownership, ownership is really important depending on your business needs, okay? Also, very, very, very important. This is not going to be a fix for all, okay? There's limitations when you're using these tools. It works great for what I use. I don't send out mass communications more than 1,500 a day, which you can see. There is some limitations here. Document creations. Using these third-party tools or these add-ons, there is some limitations. It's a security measure. Google doesn't want you to do a whole bunch, right? So it's just be aware of the limitations that you have according to Google's limitations, okay? So if you need to do a mail merge for 5,000 people, these tools will not work for you. These tools will not, okay? Then you need to look for another tool like GovDelivery, Affixa, other things that might work for you and for your business needs, okay? But in most of our smaller case scenarios, this works great, okay? So you got to pick your web quest. What is your problem? What does your business need? Who's the owner? Figure that out first. How many do you need to send out? Oh, we only need to send out 50. Falls into this bucket. Can be sent from me. This is a solution for me, free of cost, easy to do. Okay, once you get into the higher amount and certain accounts that you need to use, then you have to determine which way to do it. So this information is more of a knowledge base questions, be realizing what you have available and what limitations you have. Okay, so just be aware of that as we navigate to the next step. So you're still probably, oops, let me go back. I got click happy. On that last slide deck, I apologize. There is a plethora of resources for you too. The tools that we're using is actually built by let me get there again. I do want to point this out. This is also these resources on slide 17 you could get to is also a lot of resources for you regarding these tools. I might not do the best job of training this particular apps for you today. That's why I made sure you have all these resources plus a lot of videos to learn more about Autocrat, etc. Fill in the blank. You'll be able to have a lot of different resources. I do want to make sure I show you this resource here. So these resources, depending on the add-on that we're going to use, is Autocrat, which does a PDF to a Google Doc. Mule, which does the email trigger. Form Ranger, we'll talk more about that in a minute, and Copy Down. So these are all different things that you can actually use that are great, built by Cloud Vision, and you can find more resources there for you as well. Okay, so just know that I'm leaving you with a bucket of resources regarding these because we're just going to touch base with it and giving you kind of a base understanding of how to use these tools and actually see it in progress so you understand. So I'm going to stay with objective 1. For those that joined a little bit later, just be aware that these are using third-party add-ons, so you would have to install them. The links to install them are on the objective document, so you can see them highlighted in red. So go ahead and follow the prompts and install them. For time constraints, I have already installed them under this account, so please know that these are really good tools to use. Now we're going to navigate to objective 2. Objective 2 is we're going to complete a Google form. This is where I do ask you if you are following along, you can go ahead and complete this form as well. So if you're watching this at a later time through a video format, it will work for you. Or if you're joining us live stream, go ahead and complete this form. What is this? Why am I making you complete a Google form? Because I want you to understand what Autocrat is. So this is an example of Autocrat already set up on the back end. And how does it look for the end user, the person that's filling out the form? They're not going to notice anything different. It's just like, oh, I got a nice little PDF for it. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do objective 2, complete the form. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the form. And it's a really short, simple form, okay? It could be more in depth, right? We've already talked about all the question types and how to create a form in our beginning training. So now we're focusing more on the scripts that can be added or the add-ons on our sheet portion of the form. So this is a form is asking you just a Google Form certificate. Great job for completing the Google Forms training. Now I want to provide you a certificate, okay? And a certificate is a template. In this case, we actually use Google Slides, and it's converting it to a PDF. I'm not going to do this. It's a mail merge into a PDF format with your name on that certificate. Okay, that's what's going to happen. So here's the form. It says, I hereby confirm I attended the Google Form training. That sounds like you. Go ahead and hit yes and click next. Then it will ask you, what name do you want on the certificate? Well, that you should be able to figure out. I'm going to go ahead and put the trainer account on there. So this is the end user experience. This is what they're filling out. This account, this email, or this form, excuse me, has already been set up with Autocrat, already been good to go, and we hope it works out. There we go. It says, congrats, trainer 13, and you can see there's an attached PDF. So I did not do anything manually for that. It automatically went. It went on its own. I didn't have to do anything. Now, I could have set it up differently, and I could have manually set that trigger and do it that way. But you can see, as you can see in this email, it shows that it says attached is your certificate, and then there's a PDF. And that PDF, it has my name on there. It's an individual mail merge sent directly in a PDF format. So what we're going to do is, now that you've seen how it works and there's no work on the front end for the end user to complete, it's all done on the back end to set it up ahead of time. So that's what we're going to do next, is actually create our own Autocrat to make this exact same certificate and work for you, so you know how to do something in a similar fashion. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be a certificate. It could be an invoice. It could be a purchase order. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a form submission either. It just has to be, the data has to be inside a spreadsheet. Okay. So be aware of that. I really want you to think outside the box as we go through this in a minute here. So with that, and I apologize, I'm not sure why I'm running so slow today, because it wants to. So in objective 2, what we did is we completed the form. We should have received a PDF in our inbox if we completed it. You saw the example I just shown you. Now what we're going to do in objective 3 is create our own. We're going to kind of like almost mirror exactly what we just did, okay? But we're going to actually create it and do it on the back end, okay? With that being said, go ahead and go to objective 3 if you choose to. And again, I'm going to be honest, this is going to be hard to follow along, but you can at least get the gist of it, but you can sure give it a wholehearted try. But if you're definitely watching this on a video format, that's the beauty of the pause button. You can always pause me, stop, do what I'm doing, and go there. So in objective 3, go ahead and create your own copy. I'm going to go ahead and click create my own copy, and it will take you to a Google form to make a copy. Go ahead and click make a copy. And just as you remember, we always want to do best practice. We want to make a name infrastructure and put it in a good folder infrastructure. So let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and name the certificate. Instead of copy of, change the name to Autocrat sample, or whatever works for you. Put your name. It does not matter. It's just a matter of you know what you're doing. Then we should always organize, especially with Google Forms. Always organize your Google Forms in a solid infrastructure, especially when you're dealing with add-ons such as Autocrat, because there's going to be PDFs and it's going to be stored in there. So let's go ahead and do just as I said. Click on the folder icon and let's create a new folder and call it Autocrat sample, or Google Forms sample. Okay, something that you know. Go ahead and create a new folder, and I would call it, in my case, I'm just going to do Autocrat sample, because this is what we're doing. We're going to make an Autocrat sample in a certificate format. Go ahead and create a new folder by clicking on the blue button, and then it will ask you to go ahead and move that Google Doc into, or excuse me, Google Forms inside that folder. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and you can see now you should have named the form and you should have put it in a new infrastructure. And it's just the same process as we've always done. You always go to the folder icon, name the folder, and put it there. So now that you got everything ready to go, let's just look at this form. The form has already been created, okay? We're not here to create the form. We've already talked about how to create a form in beginning Google Form training. So we've talked about different question types. So really, we're talking about the third-party add-ons such as Autocrat. So we know that these add-ons work in the spreadsheet portion. Not all these add-ons work on the spreadsheet portion, but this one particular does. So let's go ahead and go to the response page. And you will see there's no responses for this particular form. This is a brand new form, okay? So go ahead and create a new a new spreadsheet. Go ahead and click create a new spreadsheet. And you'll get the following pop up. It'll say create a new spreadsheet. This is why naming is important, because it'll take the same name as the Google form and now make it a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is linked, remember? And now that it was in a nice folder infrastructure, it's going to go directly where you want it to in that nice folder infrastructure. Okay? So remember, 3 parts to the form. We have now the spreadsheet portion created. So, whoops. I already did. There we go. So you can now see there's no forms, no responses to this form. Okay? When we're dealing with Autocrat or Mule, one thing you should always do when working with Autocrat or Mule is to actually fill out the form first before we even add or deal with the Autocrat or formulas or anything else. So first best practice, in my humble opinion, due to my experience, is to actually complete the form. And if you have different conditions, complete them out in different conditions as well. So I'm going to go back to my form, and I want to go back to the form, and I want to click on the I screen. Why do I want to click on the I screen? That is the third portion of the form that we haven't talked about today, is the preview, the live portion of the form. Okay, this is where you as the end user in this example is you're going to complete this form. Okay, then we will set up the Autocrat and get that up and going. So we're going to go ahead and fill out the form. Yes, I hereby completed the course. Hit next. And then fill out. And I always, when I'm doing the testing portion of this, is because this is part of your testing, is I would say test sample 1. Because it's going to be, it doesn't have to be, but it just makes it easy knowing this is a test. This is going to go into my results, knowing this is my test. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. I'm just preparing you. Put a name in there. Doesn't have to be test sample. Just put a name in there and hit submit. Now you officially have one result inside that spreadsheet portion. Okay. All righty. So we're going to be jumping back and forth a lot. So now you're back into the edit portion. We know we're in the edit portion because we can see a whole bunch of different things that we couldn't see in the live portion. We have menu items and so on. Okay. If this is throwing you off, I strongly encourage you to go back to the beginning training. Okay. Because we talked about the different portions. So now we see that we have a result. Okay. Now remember, the certificate actually came in a PDF format. It's a mail merge. If I asked everybody that's in this class or watching this video, every single one of you have probably done a label mail merge back to the snail mail, where we sent them in a label and we mail merged Jessica Van Hovelen, address, zip, state, etc. That's really what you're doing. If you think of it in that terms, that's all you're doing. Okay. So now we have to go get this template, right? Instead of Avery 160, we're actually stealing this template from a Google slide. And I've already created it for you, but you know how to create a slide, or you can create a Google Doc. It could be either or, but we can actually merge data into those particular doc editors. So let's go get that. We got to get prepared before we start building our script. Okay. So now in objective 3, we've done all this. We're ready for the next big red thing. It says create a copy of the certificate template. Okay. Now, obviously you can make your own, but for time constraints, we're going to go ahead and click here to make a copy of the certificate template. Again, make a copy, and you know exactly what I'm going to tell you to do. Get organized, make a copy, name it, and put it in that nice infrastructure regarding our Autocrat sample. So this should be rinse and repeat. We've done this many times. So go ahead and don't put your name on it. Just say sample or something, because it's not, you'll find out why later. But go ahead and put sample certificate, whatever the case may be. And as you well know, we're going to click on the folder icon, and we're going to organize it and put it in our nicely new Autocrat sample folder, or whatever folder you created earlier in this demo. And you're going to move it here. You can start seeing that we're organizing this. This is important. Okay. Now, in this, you'll notice, let's talk about this document. You'll notice that it has certificate, has presented to. Notice the name has carets before and after, 2 carets. That's right. You've seen this in Avery 160 label, right? Same thing with the timestamp. These 2 items right here, these 2 texts are actually meta tags, or tags, excuse me, that are linked to the spreadsheet. We actually have a column in our spreadsheet called name, and we have a column in our spreadsheet called timestamp. So we're pulling the data from our spreadsheet to go in here as a mail merge, okay? So notice the certificate and signature do not have that. So we can customize that, right? We can customize it the way it want to be looked, that looks the same on each one of them. So these 2, name and timestamp, are going to be dynamic depending on the row of the spreadsheet, correct? So just to give it a little bit customization for your own so we can see it, go ahead and type your name in the signature because you're providing the certificate. Just to give it that you know that that is not going to change throughout the document mail merge, right? But name and timestamp both have a hashtag. And now this is just me typing those in before and after. This isn't fancy coding. All I'm doing is typing in those arrows or carets before or after the actual column header that we have in the spreadsheet. Okay. So there's really not much you need to do. This could be an invoice, right? This could be a purchase request. This could be a letter saying, "Dear Jessica, thank you so much for training us. Please pay us $50 because that's what the sheet says," right? It could be anything. It could be a Google Doc. You're just going to have to pull those tags from the spreadsheet that you want to match within that row. Okay. Go ahead and close that. We will not need to go back to this at this time. So go ahead and close it just to give you less clutter. But let's go back to our spreadsheet. So you're going to have to go find your spreadsheet and let's just make sure we understand the tags. So we have the tags name and the tags timestamp. So let's look at our header rows. Timestamp is the date that the form is submitted. That's an automatic field that comes in with Google Forms. I added the name. I could add the meta tag email address if I wanted to, right? I could add the meta tag, "I hereby confirm," fill in the blank, right? That could be also included on the certificate, but I don't need that data. All I need from this data is column D, which is the header row, is name, and all I need is the date. That's it. That's all I care for the certificate. Okay, but I could add more. Okay, so now that we know that the tags have to have the carets in the document or in the slide, plus it ties in the header row. Awesome. Now we're ready to start building the Autocrat script. So the best practice is get your document or slide ready to go with the tags. Always create it in Google Docs or in Google Slides. Okay, get that ready to go. Also, always fill the form out. Always fill the form out. Okay. Now you're ready to start building your Autocrat. Okay. So with that being said, if you haven't already installed it, you could go back to the document and install Autocrat, or you could always try to go to extensions and you can look for more add-ons. Okay. You can always go to add-ons and get add-ons and search for Autocrat. You can go that way as well. Okay. But as I mentioned, for time constraints, I have already installed Autocrat. So I'm going to go ahead and do so. So again, this is where you would need to go ahead and get it installed to be able to follow along. Once you have Autocrat installed, you'll know it's under extensions and I'm in the spreadsheet portion. This particular add-on works in the spreadsheet portion. I'm going to go ahead and click launch. I'm going to go Autocrat and click launch. And I do want to remind you, in the Google Doc, there is step-by-step instructions on how to use it for this particular example. So if you're confused, please look at the script for those that are watching live or following along at a later time on a video. The document is my script and it's also your written instructions. Once you get to this screen, you have to create a job. Now, I remember I did say Autocrat is like a script, and a script has some keywords such as jobs, triggers, and so on. What is the job that you're trying to do? Well, we want to run a certificate job. We want these certificates to run. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the red button and select new job. The beauty of this is you can have multiple jobs on one sheet. In this example, we're not going to go that hefty. We're just going to do one job, okay? But keep that in mind. You can do multiple jobs depending on criteria, right? Now, number one is name the job. This could be run job. I don't care what you call it. But in my case, to stay consistent, we're going to call this job certificate because that's what we're doing. We're running a certificate. Okay, so now we're naming the job or naming the script, right? That's what we're doing. Now let's just follow this prompt. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. Now we've named our job, our mail merge job. Hit next. Now we need to choose our template. Our template is that Google slide that we just originally did with our name on it, right? And we know we have the tags on there, name and timestamp. That's our template. That is our template, right? So let's go ahead and select from Drive. And it's probably going to be your most recent one that you were just on. So that's kind of why I made sure we opened it up and we named it the way we remembered it. And it should be one of your most recent files that you have. And it's a Google slide. So it's the yellow icon. Go ahead and find that certificate that we just made a copy of, your own copy, and go ahead and hit select. Now it's fetching those tags. Remember, there's 2 tags to that slide deck. Now it's starting things to make sense a little bit. We're getting there, right? There was 2 tags there. There was name and timestamp. So now we're connecting those tags, which are the header rows in your sheet. Go ahead and click next. Then we're on step 3, map your source to template. Well, in our spreadsheet, we have a form response spreadsheet, okay? You could have multiple sheets within the spreadsheet, correct? Right? So you might actually want to select a different spreadsheet. So keep that in mind. In this case, we're not going to. You also need to be able to indicate which is your header row. In most cases, our header row is the first row, okay? But maybe it's not. Maybe it's a very dynamic, very robust spreadsheet that you have, and the header row doesn't start until row 3. You need to tell them. By default, it's 1 is header row, and what is your first row of data? Our first row of data is the one that we submitted, okay? Row 2. Okay. Now, again, I can't go over everything, but I've left you a plethora of resources. This is a pretty basic mail merge. Okay. But I do want to point out there is some options to get pretty fancy with these mail merges. You can do a hyperlink, which could be very useful. You could do an image, and you could do a checkbox. In this case, we're not going to go down that particular training exercise, but we are going to do just a standard. But this is where I'm pointing it out. You can do a hyperlink, image, checkbox, or standard. Okay. Notice the word name is going to map to the header row name. Okay. You can always customize this to some degree. If name actually decided to go to I hereby confirm, you could change that, right? You can change that. But I like to keep it simple. I like to match the header row to the name, to the tag, and that makes it simple that way for me. But know that you can map it. So whatever the tag is going to map to the row or to the column that you have in your spreadsheet, okay? You're connecting the 2 dots. This goes to this goes to this. Please pull that data from that column to this tag, okay? Same things with timestamps, okay? We'll go ahead and hit next. Now this is the file name. So every time a form gets submitted, it's going to create a new PDF for each submission, for each row. I think it might be really helpful to make that file name very unique. I don't want it to say certificate, 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 certificate without tying it to the person or the ID or a timestamp to make it a little more unique so I can identify that particular file belongs to Jessica, okay? So let's make it unique file name. On the left-hand side, you will see a blue horizontal column. You click on that, you'll notice these are the tags, which are also your column headers. We want to actually make this your name and the certificate, okay? So go ahead and click on name. Click on name. You could type it, but you can click on that name, and then you will click paste. You'll notice it was actually helping you and telling you that. Click to copy. Clicked, and now what do you do on opposite of copy? You paste. Okay. Now the unique tag is name. So each one of the certificates will have their own name to it. What do you want it to say after the name? You want it to actually say certificate. Works for me. So it's going to be Jessica certificate. It could be whatever you want, right? Then you go down to the type. We're going to go ahead and select the type to a PDF. We're going to actually convert it to a PDF. Okay. We're going to convert it to a PDF. Awesome. PDFs. People like PDFs. Go ahead and click next as we navigate. The next thing is choose your destination folder. This is really important. This is why I made a good infrastructure. Don't put this in your My Drive. Not a good idea to just have it float in your My Drive. If you don't see a folder in here, choose a folder and put it in your Autocrat sample or folder, or create one on the go. I don't know if you can create one on the go from here, but you would want to put it in a good folder infrastructure. Sometimes I will even nest, say, Autocrat sample, right? And then I would actually say certificates as a subfolder. Okay. So just keep that in mind. You might do that because you just want all those attachments to go into one separate folder. Okay, so you really have to think of your infrastructure. So it doesn't have to be the same folder, it just has to be a folder. Okay, all right, so make sure you have a folder in there. That's not My Drive, because it actually says all merged docs, which will be your PDFs and certificates, will go into these folders. Okay. Dynamic folder is a little more advanced, and we're not going to talk much about that, and we're not going to do that. But if you remember from any of my trainings, we've talked about each document, each folder has a unique ID. Remember, Google doesn't care about names as much as we do, but each document or folder has its own unique ID. That's how you can actually say, if this particular condition is met, I will send this document to this folder. If this condition meets condition B, I want it to go to this particular folder, because each folder has its own ID and you can set conditions. Okay, we will do more conditions in the next one, but do know that each folder has its own unique ID. You would have to put that ID of that folder inside your spreadsheet. Okay, I have used this in our project investment site. So if project A goes here, it goes here. If it's project B, it goes into this folder. For project C, it goes into this folder. So you have to get an ID for each of those folder infrastructures. Okay, more advanced, not doing that, but I'm giving you that. That's a great tool. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Again, more mail merge conditions. We're not going to do a condition here, but you can. So be aware of that. Do we want to share the document and send emails? Yes. Go ahead and hit share. Go ahead and hit share. We're almost done. We're in step 8 on this particular thing. So allow collaborators to reshare. Sure. Some cases, maybe not. Send from a generic no reply. I do not recommend this for the state of Iowa. That doesn't seem best practice. Don't do that. But know that you can. Okay. But I'm not a big fan of that. Okay. So with that, you have an option. Now you just have to fill out this template. Okay. Who is this email merge going to go to? Well, let's click on the to button. Let's go back to our lovely horizontal bar and click a vertical column. And we're going to go ahead and click on email address. And I'm going to put in the to one email address. Okay. Now, I could CC and I could BCC, but keep in mind, every email address goes towards your quota. So if you're doing 3 emails, that's really less emails that you can send in an individual row, correct? So every email address is count towards your quota. Okay. Reply to, this is where I would reply back to yourself. If you want to go ahead and add your own email address on here, you could do that. It's always good practice to know. Or you could have another address be your reply address. That's up to you. Subject, always strongly encouraged to have unique subject lines, especially because many people like conversation view, and it's also going to help your sent box. Okay. Make sure you have a good subject line. So what's a good way to make it unique? You could go ahead and go back to the name and select the name if you want and say, congrats, right? Something like that, and then dash certificate. It doesn't have to, but we do want something slightly unique in that subject line, right? Otherwise, if you leave congrats certificate, that means every single one of them is going to fall into that same conversation view. Keep it unique subject line. Then you could go back and get the name again. So I'm going to go ahead and get the name, and we're just going to send a simple message to them. So I'm just pasting, right? Pasting, and I'm going to say attached is your certificate. Obviously, I could add a lot more. It is HTML capability, so you could do bold, and we'll talk more about that in the form Mule, but that is how that works, okay? So now you've got a message, name, mail merge kind of concept, attaches your certificate. That's it. All right, let's hit the next button. Do you want to run on a form trigger? What does that mean? Means when a form is submitted, just like you guys did, the script will automatically run on its own, okay? That's up to you. A lot of times I do, but there are some case scenarios I don't, and I have to manually run that when I'm ready. Or you could run it on a time trigger. I have never used that. It's not a case scenario that I've ever needed, but you could run it on a time trigger. You have two options. You have actually three options. Manually run it on your own time, run it when the form is submitted, or run it on a time trigger. When do you want this to run? If you're new to it, you might want to wait to make sure it's running correctly and manually run it. Up to you. In this example, let's go ahead and run on the form trigger. You go ahead and click on the big yes button. And now it's updating your project triggers, and go ahead and hit save one more time. Now, go ahead and click on the play button, also known as the run job. This is why it's important to have a test one, right? Because you already filled out the form. So let's run it. This is another way of running it manually, right? That particular line entry in row 2 has already been submitted. So the submission's not going to run. It's now from now on, right? So I have to manually run this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the play button to run the script. And then if you filled out the form, you should receive a certificate in your own inbox. This is testing out the form. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on the X button. And now you can see in your sheet, you have new columns recently added to your Google Sheet. You have column E, F, G, and H. This is part of the script. Don't touch. Don't touch them, okay? Don't try to rearrange them. Don't try to do anything else. I don't want to scare you. You can move them. You can do a few things, but you're new to it, right? So otherwise, you'd be messing with the script, okay? So with that, notice then in your column G, you should see that the file is actually there. And it's there. And it's also going to be inside your folder infrastructure as well that you told it to put it in. Should have put it in your Autocrat folder, right? Wherever you chose to. So it's a link to that same document that was sent to that particular person that filled it out, okay? So if you click on the 3 dots and you click on organize, you will find that it is in that Autocrat folder that you particularly put in. Also, you'll find that in your sent because you are the owner of that particular script as well. Okay. So what I would do if I were you, always test it out one more time. Now let's check out the trigger. Okay. So you can go back, and if you're on the spreadsheet, no worries, stay on the spreadsheet. We know that the spreadsheet is tied to the form. So we can always go to Tools and go to Manage Form and go to that's right, the live portion of the form. I'm going to go ahead and go to the live portion of the form, and I'm going to fill it out one more time to make sure things are working correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes, I hereby completed this course. And if I'm training again, I'm going to say after script. And let's see if things are going to be automatically ran this time, because now we turn the trigger on. So let's go back to the spreadsheet, just double check to make sure. You can see now in my example, it says it's going, document successfully created, woohoo! And I should have an email in my inbox. Now, that is how cool it is. And that was a really simple one. But with that, there are times that you need to make adjustments. Maybe something was wrong with it, or you need to resend it. So as I just scared you to death and told you not to touch column E, F, and G, but let's say I do need to change this one and resend it. So what I would need to do is highlight the content that falls into that script. So column E, F, and G, and H all fall into that script, right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove it and delete the content in E, F, and G, and H. It does not take the email back. It already went. Too bad. Too sad. Does not delete that particular file. It just means I need to fix it and resend it. So maybe I want to change the name to say scripts or something, right? And I'm like, it should have been after scripts need to fix. That's the name of the person, right? Whatever the case may be, right? Maybe the name was misspelled. Those are real, true things, right? So now I need to resend that certificate to that person again. So I deleted the content through E through H. Now I have to manually run that script. So I'm going to go to extensions. I'm going to go to Autocrat. And how Autocrat works, you're going to click launch. It looks at those columns to determine if it actually went. Actually, column H is the one it really looks at. But since column H is actually blank, it's knowing that that particular job has not been ran. So once I deleted the content in column H, it feels like that job has not ran for row 3. But it has. But we are now choosing to rerun it. Okay? So before I do that, do notice though, this is where you would click on the play button to run it. You could always go back to edit the job. You do have the capability of previewing jobs. I prefer to preview and test it on my own. You can use this option. You can delete the job, and you have some other options here about your trigger and stuff. But this is where if you wanted another job, you can do so, set in a different condition. You can get really advanced on this, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and click Run Job. And you will see that on the back end, it's saying one row will be merged, okay? Sometimes error messages will appear. Sometimes it doesn't always work. It's just a script, maybe too many at one time, something. So in that document merge status, column H, it's very important to read that. If you see anything that's kind of red flagged, not red flag literally, just meaning like error message did not go. It tried to create it, but never did. Now you know how to erase the content in that particular row, in that particular mail merge that you want to rerun. You just have to wipe it out, wipe out that area and rerun it. So it's very important to look at all the details that you have available. And what you'll find out is this Autocrat is very similar concept in Mule as well. So what I'm training you now in Autocrat is the same concept regarding rerunning the script, fixing it and doing that kind of stuff is in the same process, okay? So just want to remind you, there's a lot of resources on Autocrat. in that slide deck. So if that was like, okay, I want to go more advanced, guess what? There is a 24-page document if you want to learn more. Okay. So, and there's a lot of other videos. This is a great example to get you started, especially if you're new to using these tools. Okay. So congratulations, you have completed your first Autocrat with a mail merge that converts it to a PDF. I can tell you I've built an entire system off this script using Autocrat with dynamic folders and so much more. In conditions, it works really smooth. Sometimes it glitches up, but overall, it's easy to fix. It's end user friendly and so much more. So with that, we are ready for objective 4, and we're going to do the same concept. And I'm probably going to run over, and I apologize, but I have just learned that I'd rather go slow and get the content in, and then we can always upload it to YouTube. So I'm going to apologize, probably go a little bit longer, but I want to make sure we have all the content covered. So with that, we're in objective 4, complete form Mule sample live portion. Okay. So we're going to repeat the same process as we did for the Autocrat, but now we're going to dive into the form Mule portion of it. Okay. Just to remind you, the form Mule is where it sends an email communication out. It does not attach anything, but it does do an email notification. Okay. So best way to understand how those emails work, we're going to go ahead and complete this form as well. Now, before we do that, don't get too click happy with me. Do notice that we need to complete this form out twice, okay? And why do we want to complete this form out twice is, one, we are going to use some formulas and conditions and other things inside here, okay? So if you are completing this form, follow along and don't get click happy and just assume that I want you to fill it out. So follow along. We're going to complete it out twice, okay? So with that, we're going to complete this form. Before we complete this form, notice at the top it says register for Google training, and this is fake training. Okay, this is not real. I had someone try to join this after a training. I'm like, no, this was just fake training. Register for Google training. No need to pay me. I love money, but let's not do that. The cost is $100. Okay, if you have a coupon, the coupon is worth $25. So what would your savings be $25 and the cost would be $75? Okay. There's a reason why I'm pointing this out, okay? Trust me, okay? All right, now, first thing I want you to do, when you're testing things out, it's always good practice to always just have, so you know what you're doing. If you have squirrel brain like me, I just always have to know what I'm doing. So let's do this. First name, let's go ahead and put yes, coupon, okay? Last name, December 1st, trust me. We'll get to there in a minute. We'll get there in a minute. Go away. Next thing is phone number. Notice on the phone number, try to type it incorrectly by doing it that way with no dashes. Notice this is where we're going to teach you how to do regular expression. Notice it says, please complete the text box in the following format. There are times we want them to actually complete the form. Now, this has nothing to do with Formule. This has nothing to do with any add-ons. This is part of advanced Google Forms training where you can actually turn response validation on and using the thing called regular expression. So go ahead and type in a phone number that has hyphens. It doesn't have to be 555. It just has to have hyphens in the correct format. Okay, click agency. Go ahead and select a agency. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be your agency. Okay. Do you have a coupon? Well, remember I told you to say yes, so it's easy to remember. And December 1st. That's how I want you to fill it out. Okay. You don't need to type in comments, but you can. Go ahead and click submit. All right, we got to submit this one more time because we have two conditions here. Go ahead and hit submit another response. This time you have no coupon and you're going on December 3rd for training. Okay, so be consistent. If you have my squirrel brain, I'm going to go ahead and type in no coupon for the name because I'm testing, right? And last name is going to be December 1st because now I know what I've selected, because that's really how I'm going to remember. And go ahead and type in the phone number. We already talked about regular expression, so I don't need to talk about that again. We'll learn how to do that in a minute. And go ahead and select an agency. And this time, no coupon. And this time, I'm selecting December 3rd. Okay? For those that are following along, it's also, all that is written in the Google Doc. So make sure that that's how you'd want to fill it out. Alrighty. So, okay, 1 second. There it comes in. You can see that mine have come in. So if things are working properly, it's just taking a minute because I'm running really slow, is that you can see in my example on my screen, I have 2 emails, and hopefully you do as well. You will see then in that email, depending on your scenario, you'll notice that we have the same concept that we did with the Autocrat. We have our subject line that's kind of customized to however you completed it. Notice it has the first name and last name. Thank you for training on December 1st. Add to calendar. It has the registration details and all that included inside the email. Notice this particular one has a total of $75. Well, that's because this one particular had a coupon, right? We selected the validation of yes, have a coupon, correct? So that got the $25 off. Woohoo, right? If we look at the one that said no, you'll notice that that one probably has the cost of $100. I did not have to manually do anything. That automatically did that using the tool Mule and using formulas and using the copy down add-on to make all that work. So how cool is that, right? That is really powerful tool as we think about it. And we are going to now do objective 5. Okay. We will be doing some fun things in here. We will be also tackling Form Ranger, okay, and copy down. And we're going to do this regular expression. So I know we'll be pushing time, but I'm going to keep going. With that, I'm going to go ahead and go to Objective 5, if those that are following along, Objective 5, and click on Create Your Own Copy here. So we're not here to do a whole bunch of fun add questions. We already did that. Make a copy of this document, but I do ask that you do what you always do. This time, let's keep it separate from your Autocrat. Let's go ahead and name it. Name this form. Let's call it Form Mule Sample or something. Okay? And whatever you want to call it, not from Mule, but it doesn't matter. And then make a new folder in this case. Make a new folder and call it Form Mule Sample. Okay, because we'll have documents that will go in here in a minute for other reasons. Type in Form Mule Sample, click on the blue button, create a folder, and move it. I cannot emphasize how important it is to stay organized within your Google Form infrastructure. Okay. Now, one thing we're talking more in the advanced Google Forms training here is that we can do response validation within Google Forms. We talked about that in the beginning training. Like if you're new to this, always go to the question type and do what? Go to the question, any question, and most questions, not all questions, have an option to do response validation. Okay. That means how do you want the end user to complete it? Do you want some limitations? Do you want it to be an email address? It's not going to be a blanket catch-all, right? But we can do response validation depending on the question type, and each one of them are slightly different. One of the most advanced features you can do with response validation is use what we call regular expression. And here is my humble disclosure is I am not a huge expert in regular expression. Okay, I am not. So please go ahead and go to the number question. Go ahead and go to the phone number question. So it's like 1, 2, 3, the phone question. and I cheated here a little bit. I have actually already put the regular expression in the helped text. So go ahead and copy that regular expression in the help text. Go ahead and copy that. Now, I'm going to be honest, there is a huge resource inside the Google Docs about regular expression. I kind of know what it is. I mean, I know what it is. I just don't know how to create them very well. But I'm very good about Googling and trying to find, hey, give me a regular expression for a phone number. Give me a regular expression for fill in the blank. So, and also there's a very valuable resource inside the Google Doc. Okay. So if you're like, whatever, we saw what the regular expression can do. It gave me a capability of making sure they put a hyphen inside the phone number. How many get different formats within phone numbers when they put it in, right? We usually have to fix it on the back end, right? Split to text, add, concatenate, blah, blah, blah. So at least can help us as they enter it in. Okay, so now that we've got the regular expression copied, copy that regular expression. You can kind of read the expression itself. It's got day equals, or digit equals 3, 3, and 4, and has to have a hyphen in between. You can kind of see the matching of that regular expression, right? Okay, so with that, go ahead and go to the 3 dots. And you will see in there, there's a response validation. Click response validation. And this time you'll notice we're going to go ahead and select regular expression. Click regular expression. And it should actually not contain. Let's go ahead and select matches. Matches that particular regular expression pattern. So we need to paste in that expression that we just copied. You can get it up here if you want. Go ahead and paste that in there. And then in the custom air text, you remember when we filled it out, 555, it said, oh, please complete it out in this format. So give them some guidance. What are you asking them? Please complete in this format. And then give them an example, right? Or whatever. This is not my expertise, but you can give them some help text for sure. Okay. So regular expression matches regular expression code, pattern, whatever word you want to use, and then give them some help text. Okay. So again, check out that resource. There's a lot of other ways to use regular expression, but again, it can help you to not have to manipulate the data after it's been entered. So let's get some templates in our folder infrastructure so we have it all organized, and then we will move on and learn more about it. So under your Google Doc, you see the highlighted red for a reason. I need you to make a copy of these 2 documents. One's a Google Doc and one's a Google Sheet. Go ahead and make a copy of both of these and put them in that same folder infrastructure that we have, and we will come back to them. Make a copy and put it in that folder infrastructure that you just created. So go ahead and make a copy and put it in that folder, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So just all I'm doing is putting both, there's a Google Doc and there is a Google Sheet. Both of those need to go into that folder infrastructure. So please go ahead and make your own copy and get prepared for the next step. And if you cannot see by now how important it is to have a good infrastructure when dealing with these, now you probably get it better now as you're working through this. All right, we're almost there. Okay, so what are we doing? We're getting prepared, I promise you. So the Form Mule template and the Form Ranger sheet, we will come back to as we navigate through the rest of the training. We're going to use these templates for you, right? So this just really helps you really implement something really cool. And I'm trying to just give you a really good template. And so then you can start building off of it. Okay. That's always my goal. Okay. Steal and borrow and share. Okay. So what are we doing next? So let's go. We have the Form Ranger. We're focusing on the Form Ranger now. So the Form Ranger is the example of the agency list where it's really, really long, right? Right. It's really a long list. Why would you use something like that? Well, we could always copy and paste that agency list into the Google form. Hands down. No problem doing that. If it's static, right? If it always stays the same, it's no big deal. Copy and paste it, put it in the form, never changes. Woohoo, we're done. Don't worry about it. But however, there are times where like there is a long spreadsheet and maybe it's changing. Maybe we're offering cookies today, but tomorrow it's donuts. And you don't really want to go into that form each time because not everybody's a form expert, but you've got people that can update data in a spreadsheet, right? So maybe tomorrow it's donuts and today is cookies. Well, you could actually have that person that's doing the bakery could actually update and put donuts in that spreadsheet and would update and reflect it on that particular form. That's what Form Ranger does. It pulls it from the spreadsheet, right? Not from the form itself, okay? So here's an example. So now this is an example of an add-on inside the form portion of the form. Okay, it's inside the edit portion of the form. Excuse me, it's inside the edit portion of the form. It's not part of the spreadsheet portion. Okay, so go to your new form for Form Mule training and find your form. And I want you to go to the edit portion, which is where you see all the menu options, and find the puzzle piece. Click on the puzzle piece and you'll see the option of an add-on. Now, if you don't have the Form Ranger add-on appear there, you would go ahead and add more add-ons by clicking on the three dots, I think is where you go. The three dots. And you can go to add-ons and add more add-ons that way. Okay. But the add-on that we're using is we're going to click on the Form Ranger and we're going to go ahead and click on the puzzle piece and select Form Ranger. Then you will get the option to click Start. And then you will get a new menu option on the bottom right-hand side. This is pretty simple, self-explanatory. You can use Form Ranger for both multiple choice or drop down is my recommendation. They say check boxes and grids. I haven't had much luck with that as well, but I have had no problems with multiple choice and drop down. But you can read what they say, go from there, okay? So with that, you have several different types of questions that fall into that category. In this particular question list, we're only going to use the Form Ranger for the agency list, okay, in this particular example. So under agency, go ahead and click on populate from the range. Go ahead and click on that checkbox. And then click on the new button because now we need to select one. We haven't tied it to that sheet yet, okay? Go ahead and click on the plus button. And now we need to go find that sheet that we just made a copy of, right? That sheet has all the list of agencies. It's very important on that agency list that it has a header row. I can't tell you how many times I said that in Sheets training. Always have a header row, okay? So now you should be able to find it. I named it ZZ something, but go ahead and look for that one that you just had and hit select. Now, in that sheet, I'm just going to pull it up so you guys can see it. In that sheet, you'll see that we have a sheet name called Sheet 1, and we have a header row named Agency. Again, best practice, and here's the name of that sheet, okay? So that's what we're pulling, okay? That's the sheet that we're pulling from. So that's where we got the donuts and the cookies could be updated on that sheet, okay? So the sheet name is Sheet 1, Agency. You can kind of see the preview It's telling me that sounds good. You could always do different other kinds of selections here. You can do select sheet, name range. You can get really fancy here, okay? All right, so now we're going to name that range. And we're going to go ahead and do agency. I'm just calling it agency name. I'm calling it agency. Doesn't even call it anything. It's just the range name. And I'm going to go ahead and click save and populate questions. Last time I did this, it didn't work very good. So today, let's see how things go. It works good. I use this for one of my biggest systems as well. Now at the bottom, you have auto repopulate questions. On form submission, yes. Every hour, yes. What's the point of being updated? So what it does is it checks that form, checks that sheet every hour, okay? If for some reason you need it to be changed right away, you go to Form Ranger, update that list, okay? All right, go ahead and update question list. And when you see that, go ahead and click, you can scroll down and you will see in your agency, it should be populating automatically all those particular agencies, okay? Awesome. So go ahead and close the Form Ranger. And what happens then is if for some reason I need to change and update that spreadsheet. So for example, I'm going to, just for fun, remove all these. That's not what I meant to do. Let's say I'm removing these because they should no longer be in my spreadsheet, okay? I could then, it will automatically do it in an hour, but I'm impatient and I need to fix it. So I've removed ABD. They're no longer all those. Notice it's not changing here automatically because it's not within that hour and no form has been submitted. I can always go to the Form Ranger and I can hit start and I can update question list. And you will then see that ABD and the other ones that I just deleted has been updated. Okay. So you have multiple ways to update the information. Okay. So that's the purpose of Form Ranger. All righty. Now, where we're at now is we're ready to prepare for the form Mule and copy down. Here's where it gets kind of minute. We need to complete that form a couple times. Okay. So we have a new form that we have just created. We need to do the same thing that we did earlier, okay? Like we did for Autocrat, we had to complete the form. That's best practice. So we're going to do the same thing we just did earlier, but a little bit faster since we know what we're doing, but we're doing it on the form that we created and made a copy of, okay? Because best practice is to fill it out, right? So here is the one that we've been working on, right? This is our own sample. There's no responses at the current time for this particular form. And now we just need to fill it out just like we did earlier. So go ahead and click on the preview form because now we're creating our own, right? Now we know how it works. We're getting the whole big picture. It's all coming around making sense, right? So this time, first name, this time again, we're going to do complete this form as if we have a coupon and we're going on December 1st. So yes, coupon. Last name is December 1st just because I have squirrel syndrome. Now we're testing out our regular expression. I hope we did it right. And I'm going to go ahead and choose an agency. And I do have a coupon and I'm going December 1st. And I'm going to hit submit. Then I'm going to do the other condition. The other condition is I don't have a coupon and I'm going December 3rd. Go ahead and hit submit. Another one, you got to repeat this twice. You don't have to the more you get familiar with it, but this is really how you understand it better, okay? So first name is going to be no coupon because this is how we're going to identify we have the right condition because my memory is not good. Last name is December 3rd. Phone number Choose agency. Go ahead and choose an agency name. Doesn't matter. And then go ahead and choose December 3rd and hit submit. So we're kind of doing the same thing we just did earlier, right? So it's rinse and repeat, but now we're practicing it on our own form. So now we know what we're building, okay? No coupon. Okay, so where we're at on the document, and we are going to go along, and I apologize, but I don't. How's that sound? Not very good? Because I want to make sure we go at a good pace here and really get into this. But that's the beauty of this. This will be uploaded to YouTube by tomorrow morning. With that, you will see we're right here. We are working on formulas and copy down, okay? So remember, if you have a coupon, you get a $25 savings, woohoo, right? And if you don't have a coupon, you have to pay $100. But there's nothing in the form that says $25 besides in the description. So we got to build a formula. So we're going to make that wow effect, and we're going to add that formula into our spreadsheet. Okay, so let's go back to our form. So in our form, we have 2 responses, but we have not created the spreadsheet portion yet, have we? We have not done that, okay? That's the beauty of it. We can do it anytime. So we're in the response tab in Google Forms, and we're going to create a spreadsheet portion. And we know it's going to be nice and organized because that's what we've trained you on. And we're going to go to that spreadsheet, and we're going to start building our new formula with the copy down add-on, okay? So we need to get organized. Now, we know that column I through column A is part of our form. These questions are identical, or these row headers are identical to the questions that are in our form. We do not want to mess with those, okay? We leave column A through I alone. Don't mess with those. You can color code them, but don't change the text. 10-4, don't change the text, okay? But we are in free reign after the form questions. So that would mean column J all the way across, we're free to do what we want to do with it. It's our spreadsheet, doesn't matter. So in column J, in row 1, go ahead and type in the word discount. And this is very important if you are following along to make it consistent. Please make sure you use the word discount, because if you haven't understand by now, the header row is really important because it has tags, right? It's tags that are going to be tied, just like we did in Autocrat. Same thing in K1. In K1, let's go ahead and do a total. So discount and total are new header rows, new header names for column J and K. Now, remember, if they have a coupon, they get $25 off. So let's make that formula. So in J2, this is a formula. I'm not teaching you how to build the formula right now, but it is also in that Google Doc. If you just want to copy and paste, you can do that. It's right in that Google Doc, or you can follow along. If, that's right, G2, which is this one, I'm selecting G2 equals, it's a text, so I'm putting quotes around it, yes, oops, so if yes, quotes, so if parenthesis G2 equals quotes, yes, the return value is $25. That might help if I put 25 in there, right? And go ahead and do autofill. So if you're new to if statements, I'm not going to train you on that, but that's an example of an if statement. That's one of the many things. You could do a VLOOKUP, you could do a match thing, you could do all sorts of different things, right? This isn't part of Sheets training, but that's the point of it. You can put any formula in there. So what is it that you want? Maybe this is your raw data, but now you want some analytics on top of it, right? And maybe now you want to build a report using Autocrat, and now you want an email sent. Like you can see the how it's could build, right? So if you're stuck on the formula, no worry, just go back to the doc, copy and paste it, and put it in there. Okay. Notice if you filled down in J2, you'll notice then it's 0. Well, that makes sense. That person didn't have a coupon. They get no discount. Okay. So let's do another formula. This is a more simpler formula. Let's do if the total of the training was $100, right? It was a $100 training. So if it's $100 and they get a discount of 25, then the total would be 75, right? So we're going to go ahead and do an equal sign. And we're going to do $100, just so type in the number 100 minus 25, or J2 in this example, right? Hit return. So in the first example, $75 is the total cost. Oops. Oh. Let's do that again. Equals 100 minus J2. And again, that formula is in there in the doc. And if you're new to Sheets, you can just fill down by getting the cross and drag it down. You'll only need to drag it down to row 3. We will talk about copy down here in a minute. So again, if you're new to Sheets, I apologize, I keep repeating myself because I don't know what your audience is, but those two formulas that I just talked about are right in there, okay? So you can copy and paste those into the appropriate cells as indicated, and it'll work for you as long as you have followed along, okay? Now, what we want to do is every time a form submission comes in, we want those formulas to automatically populate. And to do that, we can actually do that with copy down. You can also do it with an array formula, but many of us are not familiar with array formulas. So we're going to go ahead and use the add-on copy down. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to tools. They throw that off on me. Extensions. And this is where if you don't have the copy down add-on, go ahead and install it. Otherwise, we're going to move on and go to extensions and go to copy down. Then we're going to select copy down settings. Then you're going to get a menu item on the bottom right-hand side in a very similar fashion that we've been kind of used to. We're going to first turn on copy down formulas and turn it on. Now, it's discovering that we probably have a formula row in row 2. Okay, this could be different, but on average, it's row 2. Okay, because you're building that formula off the very first one. Okay, and this is why it's important. I'm giving you best practice for lessons learned. This is the best way to do this, right? Fill out the form, get your formulas built with some test data. Now start building. Okay, then you'll notice it has, in this example, it has 2 formulas. It has discount and total. You also have the option to pay special values. Now, again, maybe a terminology you're not familiar with. This will depend. Sometimes you want just values. Sometimes you want the formulas to copy down, okay? It will determine on your particular needs. In this case, all we care about is pretty much a static copy of that particular value. So let's go ahead and paste as values. Go ahead and save settings. Okay. So this won't make a lot of sense yet until we actually fill out the form. Okay. But it kind of should make a little bit of a sense because when we filled out the demo form earlier in the training, you were told the exact amount and that formula was being ran using the copy down feature. I didn't have to go in there and subtract and determine and do it manually. It did it on its own using that copy down feature. We're getting there. We will probably got 10 more minutes here. What we have left here is we have the last step, which is actually doing the formula. Okay, so add on formula launch. This is where we're going to build the email templates. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to your Google Docs if you want. If you go to that Google Doc that you made a copy of, and if you can't find it, where would it be? It's actually in your folder infrastructure for wherever it is, Form Mule sample. But we're looking just to talk about this Google Doc for a second. Okay, I'm giving you best practice. So we're looking for the Form Mule template. Now, Form Mule is actually an email mail merge. It's not an actual document mail merge. But I have done this enough. In Form Mule, the actual content HTML editor is clunky. It's not as clean. And so I prefer to get what I want inside the email, typed in a Google Doc, and I copy and paste because I have a lot more real estate. I have ways to collaborate. So I'm giving you best practice. Okay. If you got to use any Form Mule, get it typed up in a Google Doc, just as I've shown you, and then copy it and put it in your Form Mule tool. Okay. So in this example, we have two conditions. Are you going December 1st or are you going December 3rd? December 1st, they get an entire different calendar invitation link. If they're going December 3rd, they get a whole different calendar invitation. You also will make note, we have our tags that we are familiar with by now. Email address has tags, similar concept as we do in Autocrat. Same thing within our subject line, we have tags. First name, last name, we know those are header rows. There is something slightly different in this one that you're not used to in the Autocrat, but we know that we could use it in Autocrat as well, is that it has HTML code. I'm not here to teach you HTML code. I'm just telling you, you do have that capability. Most people that are probably somewhat savvy know that there's some basic HTML code as bold and italicized. Google how to make something bold. You will find it in HTML editor. That's what we're doing. Making the word total stand out and be bold. Same thing. You want it to be a link. href is a way to make it a hyperlink inside there. So this is a long hyperlink, but I want it to be add to calendar. If you looked at your emails that you have, you'll notice that's how it's looking. It's rich text editing, rich text formatting, and we're using it by HTML code. This isn't that scary. All this is the word registration information, and I put the word bold HTML code behind it. You don't have to get that fancy. You don't have to. But guess what I just gave you? That's right, a template. Now you've got the basic HTML options for you. Bold, italicize, underline, and so much more right there. So now you know how it looks and how to do it, and you can steal and borrow it for your own, okay? There's a purpose for my madness, okay? So now we know we have two conditions, December 1st and December 3rd. Now we've kind of already typed up the email. We know what it wants to be. We've had people proof it. People know by now to leave the tags alone because we're going to need those tags in our Form Mule. All right, now that we have this, keep this open because we're going to come back to it and copy and paste it, okay? So now I'm going to go back to our spreadsheet portion of that form. And we've done the formulas, and now we're ready for Form Mule, okay? So we're in the spreadsheet portion of this. We're going to go to extensions, and we're going to go to add extensions and choose the extension Form Mule, okay? And we're going to launch. This is going to be, you'll notice this is a very similar way that we're used to because it's going to be the same similar steps that we did earlier, okay? With that, first thing, we got to select our source. Our source in this case is form responses. We can see that at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and click form responses. And then we need to ask ourselves, how do we want this to be triggered? Most times when it comes to the form response trigger, we could actually send it when the form is submitted. Okay, go ahead and change that toggle to the right. You're going to be kicked out of this, and you're not going to, I promise you, it's nothing you did wrong. It's just how it works. When you turn that on, it will kick you off once you select log in. I think it does. I forget. It does. It's going to kick you out. Once you hit log, it will kick you out, and then go ahead and this is normal, as you can just see. Go ahead and OK, and go back to form responses. Now, I want to remind you, even though we're using the form Mule for a form response, does not mean we need to only use this on a Google form submission. It can be used just for a spreadsheet portion, but we also need to remember the limitations. That's why I hit those at the very beginning. Those limitations are important. Don't call me and say, I can't send these to my 8,000 users. Like, yeah, I told you that. You can't do that. Okay, so now go back to extensions, go to Form Mule email merge utility, click setup, and choose source data. Okay, it just for some reason it kicks you out, comes back in. I don't want to explain why, but that's just trust me, that's how it works. Okay, so now you should see that it's got form responses, send on form submit. You could do a time trigger if you choose to, but we're not going to. Go ahead and choose next, templates, and send conditions. Just keep following the prompts. We have two conditions. Are you going December 1st? They get a separate communication. Are they going December 3rd? Okay. So we need to say there's two unique templates. Go ahead and select two. Notice that you can do up to 15. Heaven forbid you could do up to 15. Okay. I'm going to name the first template DEC1 and the second one DEC3. Okay, so with that, December 1st, what is the condition? What day are they going? Right, so they're going to select session, right? That was, or they select a session. So it has to equal what if they're going to December 1st? They have to equal the exact terminology, the exact response validation inside that question. So that question is, go back to, just so you guys can see it, just so it makes sense. Under that session question, it has to equal December 1st or December 3rd. So it can't be typed incorrectly. It has to be identical text, right? So if I wanted to, I'd probably copy and paste because my typing skills are bad. But for time constraints, I'm going to go with my typing, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in December 1st. And the second one, select session, I'm going to type in December 3rd. But remember, it has to be identical to that particular condition. So if December 1st, they're going to get a template of December 1st. If they go December 3rd, they're going to get a template of that. I'm going to go ahead and save template sessions. There's other options you can select from. It's creating that. On the back end, you can see it's creating hidden sheets within this workbook. No worries. And let's keep moving on. The next part is going to go ahead and click Edit Templates. And now this is where we're just going to copy and paste, for the most part, from our Google Doc. As you can see, it is clunky. It's not very pretty, not much real estate. So again, didn't take you down a rabbit hole, I promise. First thing is I want to go ahead and put in the email address. So all you do is click on, notice the template that we're on right now is December 1st. So we have two conditions, two templates. December 1st is one, and December 3rd. Let's focus on December 1st. Go ahead and click on the to button and put in the email address. So all I'm doing is clicking on the email to merge that tag. You can always do a CCC, a BCC, reply, and etc. In this case, we do want a unique subject line. This is where I get a little lazy as well. I would go back to my document that we have promised to keep open. Remember, the document that we have with our December 1st and December 3rd template. I get pretty lazy here. I will even do the subject line in here. So I will actually copy and paste that subject line. And again, we understand we like the subject to be very unique. Maybe that's why I put the first and last name. I could actually put select session as well. You can get pretty fancy within that. But let's say I do want to add the select session after that subject line. All I have to do is just click on select session after Google training. and I now have it in there. I'm going to go back to the Google Doc, and now I'm going to copy the body of the email. I'm going to go ahead and copy the body of the email, and that is before the horizontal line. And I'm going to get everything except for, I'm going to go right underneath the subject line. So I'm starting at the body of the email, first name, all the way down to thank you for your questions. Please reply to this email. Okay. Go back to the Mule spreadsheet. No, wrong one. And now paste that in there. Now you can see why, oh, don't do that. I must not have copied. Go back. Let's copy. And go back to that. You guys are troopers for staying on. Alrighty, so with that, let's repeat that a little bit faster this time. But before you do that though, do not forget to save up here. I about did it. Save and preview, not save and send, save and preview. Okay? Save and preview. Save and preview. Anytime you make a change, save and preview. Okay? We'll come back to this in a minute. Let's go to December 3rd and go change your template to December 3rd and click edit. And now repeat that same exact process that we just did, but this time actually go ahead and get the December 3rd template information. So we've got first name and last name as the subject, and copy the body just as you just did for December 1st, but this time make sure you get the December 3rd content. So you're going to scroll down and find the December 3rd template. Do you see how much easier it is inside the Google Doc? The only inconvenience with this is actually typing in the meta tags, but it's pretty minor considering. Alrighty, now what did I tell you? Don't forget to do save and preview. So really all we're doing is a fancy way of mail merge. I learned mail merge when I was in high school. This is all this is. It's just inside Google Sheets and using a tool called Mule. Okay, so be aware of that. Okay, that's all it is. So now if you actually save and preview and change your row to row 2, you will start to see that things are working correctly. Obviously, row 1 does not work and does not show data because it does not meet the criteria of December 3rd. It only meets the criteria of December 1. So if you change your template to December 1 up here and go to row 1, it works. Okay? So go ahead, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and save and send. This is going to be also your test to make sure things look right. Okay? So now you should receive those emails directly in your inbox. And the beauty of Mule too is, I forget, this also tells you the number of emails you attempt to send is 2. Remaining daily quota is 1470. You got to remember, it's not just per add-on that you have the limitation of 1500. It's any add-ons, any app scripts that you're using as a third-party tool is a limitation of that 1500. Okay? So I always like that it tells me my daily quota inside Mule especially. I'm going to go ahead and hit send down. So what's going to happen is you're going to get an email, hopefully, with those 2 things. We're going to get the same exact thing. We're not going to check the emails. We're going to presume that it's right. You get a status as well. Depending on if we checked logged a case number or not, you'd get that as well. This is what I would tell you to do, and I'm going to do it because what's the matter now if I'm this far along, is now really what the ultimate test would be is to fill out this form 2 more times, right? So let's do it. We're going to go to Manage Forms. You're going to go to Tools, and you're going to fill out the form with the two different conditions and make sure things are working out correctly. That is what you should do for your first time user if you've never done this before, because then you're just really feeling comfortable, because now you're going to test the copy down formula. You're going to do all that. So I'm just going to zip through this, and I'm going to say yes, coupon again, because now I know it's my second one. I'm going to type December 1st. Again, this is something I don't do all the time because I've done this so many times. I know how to test things, but again, I'm assuming this might be your first time. And it's very important that you do this. So I'm going to be like a good parent and a model best behavior. And I'm going to repeat that again, but I'm going to use my other condition. This time, no coupon. Because what are we testing? We're making sure it runs on the script, and we're making sure the conditions and the formulas are working. We're just kind of double checking that our emails are coming. We're just doing good practice before we take this live. And one more thing that would be also is to have someone else test this out that's not you. That would be also a strong recommendation if this is your first or second time doing this. So now that we've submitted it twice with our two different conditions, we're going to go back to our spreadsheet and just do a spot check. One, we want to make sure things are coming in correctly. We want to see that our formulas are working. So it looks like we have, yes, 0 is 100. That's awesome, because it should be $100. They have no coupon. In my example, December 1st, this one said yes to a coupon. This one's 75. Let's check our status here. It looks like the December 1 sent the December 1 particular email template. Notice there's a second in column O. There's two different statuses because there's two different templates, right? Template 1 or template N is our December 1 template. December 3rd, column O is our December 3rd template. So notice if I had 15 particular conditions, 15 different templates, 15 different jobs, I would have 15 different columns. We don't touch these columns like we mentioned in Autocrat. We stay away from them. We do not move them. We do know how to rerun them, though, right? If there's an issue, we remove the content with the form Mule, which is O and an M, because it's black, and it's telling you, if you hover over it, this column is needed before form Mule. Leave it alone. But if you need to rerun it, you're going to delete the content. I'll go ahead and delete the content for column M, N, and O for row 5. And then I'm going to go to extensions. This time I'm going to go to form Mule, because I need to make it, I need to do it. And now I'm going to go to preview and send all. And you can see then, oh, yep, I want to rerun that, and so on. And I hit send down. Okay. One last thing is you can always edit the particular template if you think you need to make an adjustment. So if for some reason we notice that we have a typo and we've sent a few out, we always can go back to setup and build and preview our templates. And so if we need to make an adjustment, we can do so. We just go ahead and click build, preview, and templates. And you would then select the template in this case and decide to edit. Please know that we do know that anytime we see the carrots, that's a tag. If you, for some reason, let's say I remove, because this happens to me, I remove a carrot and I make a mistake in that particular meta tag and I just didn't click the extra one and I hit save and preview, this is what's going to happen. You'll notice then it's not working correctly. Things aren't showing up correctly. It's broken. The code is broken. So always go back, make sure if you see something that's not displaying right, that you have the right tags and so on. Notice then I hit save and preview and things are working correctly. Okay. So there is, if you go to HTML Friendly, it will take you to a website to learn more about HTML. So honestly, that's how I learned. So if you want, you can always check that out. I know today went really, really long, and I'm sorry for that. I do want to make sure, though, before I leave, that you do have all the other additional resources for you. Um, these are both, I don't like to offer third-party tools. I have been using Google for way too long to count. In my education background, when I was working in Atlantic, I used these tools all the time. They've been around forever. And I strongly recommend that. I'm not the only one that has used Cloud Vision. So please check out all of the tools that are available here as well if my resources did not, or my training style did not help. But I do want you to make sure that you have the templates that I have available on this document that you can steal and borrow. And the best thing is I'm always here to offer help where you can send me the form. I'll fill it out, test it out. I'm like, I would recommend that you maybe try this. We've got too many questions, so much more. And just remember, these add-ons, not all of them, depending on which app, they'll be worked for multiple cases, for multiple reasons, for multiple business needs. So with that, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for attending, and I appreciate you staying on longer. Sooner or later, I'll get the time figured out. But now that I'm recording and put it on YouTube, I just kind of keep going. So I will thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the day.